vision, goal setting, determination, sharp focus, respect, and discipline. Once you learn it, you can apply it to all aspects of your life. The warrior's mindset prepares you for the largest competition ever, the competition against self. It shows you how to solve all problems at hand, maintain focus and a peaceful state of mind. We live in a competitive society. We live in a society that right now is fighting back and recovering from COVID-19 and all of the other devastating things that has impacted all of our lives. But we will never quit. Quitting is not an option. So thank you for joining in to this Warriors Mindset broadcast so we can always find a solution on how to step up, flip the script, and be a success in our life, regardless of the obstacles that stand in front of us.
Welcome to Willie the Bam Johnson's Warriors Mindset. It's about mind, body, and spirit. We know that there's a lot of trying times that we're all facing right now. But we know through the Warriors Mindset, especially the principles of martial arts, the mind, body, and spirit, we can make it through anything. That's the whole purpose of this radio show, to bring in people that will empower you, help you to reconnect to your dreams, your visions, and your passions. And just one day at a time, we can make it through with a smile, with a hand, a high five, whatever we can do to just help everyone just push through and make it to the next level. Today, we have someone that's really special to me, that really helped me along the way of trying to live one of my dreams, which has always been to get into films and in TV, and on a great historical show that everybody still talk about, the cult classic, which is WMAC Masters, but he done did so many other things. I mean, he really don't need no introduction. We have Mr. Isaac Florentine. Mr. Isaac, how are you, sir?
Good.
Can you give the people a brief little introduction on yourself?
Yes, I was born in Israel. That was 62 years ago. I feel now really old when I'm saying this. My parents actually were Holocaust survivors from Greece.
Okay.
My father was in Auschwitz. That was was sent to Auschwitz. That was a notorious death camp. In Poland, he survived it. My mother was sent to Bergen-Belsen. She survived it too. My father came to Israel in a refugee boat after he was liberated by the Russian from Auschwitz in January 1945. He tried to go to Israel. Israel then was under British mandate. The British didn't let him in. They stopped many refugee boats with Holocaust survivors. You can see it in the movie Exodus. They threw him into jail. They released him a few weeks later because he had a family that came in the 30s to Israel. They were very Zionist. So they let him out. And the only reason why he survived the camp and succeeded in Israel, it's because he had a skill. He was a car mechanic, and he learned to be a car mechanic when he lost his father when he was 9 years old, and he learned that skill from two Armenian brothers that themselves were refugees or survivors of the Turkish massacre that they did on the Armenian on World War I. It's interesting how history repeats itself. So he managed to open a garage. He met my mother, and my eldest brother was born, and I was born. So we grew up in Tel Aviv, nice city, small city by the sea. No, it's not that small. In a country that had then only 2.5 million people. A great childhood. No bitterness in the house, even though their background was really rough and hard, there was no bitterness.
So this is the warrior's mindset. So what I see is that your parents had to really have what we refer to as the warrior's mindset. Your dad had to be really determined to make it through such devastating adversity. I mean, how do you think that influenced you to become the person that you are today? I mean, through your childhood and your teen years.
So first of all, my father's set of mind when he was sent to Auschwitz, and it took about 8 days. They were in a train from Salonika, Greece, which is in northern Greece, to Poland. That was 8 days in a cattle car wagon with a place for I mean, the capacity was about 10 times more than what it should have been. There was no toilets, no nothing, no sanitation. Already, many people died on the way. When they arrived, I have the statistics, I really looked into it, I have all the number. From 1967 people that arrived, only 300, 1,600 were taken immediately to the gas chamber, including his mother. And his brother was also killed, and he survived. You have to understand what was survived. That they shave your head, they take your clothes, you have no name anymore, you have no belonging, they tattoo a number in your hand, and from now on you're a number. So for him, it told us that whatever kept him alive was his spirit, and there was always a hope. So with that being a kind of eternal optimist, even in hard times, he had a saying that he loved to say, he used to say it in French, and it came from the fables of La Fontaine, and it means the reed bend, but doesn't break. It's very, I mean, we as martial artists, we know it, you know, you have to be pliable, you have to be flexible in your mind and to adapt. He used to say it in French, it's le roseau plie mais ne rompt pas. And with that, that was his set of mind in every obstacle that he faced in life. I'm going to overcome it, I will not break, and then I will go up and will continue. Yeah. So at home, what he installed us, the kids, was education, 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 family value, and learn a skill. But education above all. We were taught at home, even though we grew up in Israel, where the language is Hebrew. He used to tell me there's only 2.5 million people that speak it. You have to learn other languages. So my parents, they spoke to us at home French, because even though they were grew up in Greece, their education was French. Mm-hmm. And all the textbook that they had was in French. So they spoke French and Spanish. Why Spanish? Because their ancestors of the Jews that were in Greece are actually Spanish, are the Jews that were deported from Spain in 1492. So we were speaking a Spanish dialect that is called Ladino. It's a 15th century Spanish dialect that I speak it. So really, technically, I am pure Hispanic, even though I was born in Israel, that is really in Asia. Right. Pure Hispanic. So we were taught, we spoke languages like French, this old Spanish dialect, and of course Hebrew. English I learned later. So for him it was always about education, learn more languages, be a good student, and learn a skill. And be a good student, it was some kind of an obligation, because my brother and I, and all generation of second children that have a second generation Holocaust kids, I've noticed, they knew that there is a responsibility from us to our parents, because they suffer so much. Oh. We never wanted to let them down. So we were all of us were really, really good students, you know. So that's basically what it is.
But something that you hit me with right there, two things that come to mind when you talk. I was taught by someone that was dear to me. His name is Nick Kokinis. He said, Bam, it's God, family, community, and business. And that's kind of like what I heard you saying. But the thing that I think we neglect a lot, and that's real powerful for you to say that you honor your parents. You wanted to do whatever was possible to make sure they did not have to suffer again. Is that what you're saying? It was your duty, and in a sense, to carry on and make life better, so they can be relieved of some of that suffering that they had to do to bring you here and allow you to live. Is that what you're saying there?
Absolutely. And though I'm not religious, it's in the 10 Commandments. It's respect your father and your mother. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha lema'an ya'arichun yamecha. This is how it says. So you live longer. Longer, that means better. They and you know. So it's one of the commandments, and there is a reason behind it, you know. The reason is not only moral, is to have a good life, because if there is respect at home from you to your parents, from your parents to you, basically all the way that your life goes is in a positive way. It's really to get and gain positive life, you know.
You know, I mean, this is about Isaac, but you're bringing up some powerful things. And once again, when I think of that, I mean, many times people know my struggle and they know what we had to face coming up in a negative environment. But a lot of people don't realize that generation, like mine, we did those bad things because we wanted to do that. We wanted our parents off of welfare. We didn't like how our parents were being treated. But I think that how do we, how do you bring about clarity and personal accountability to a child, from because you're coming from one perspective that's a part of your history. I'm coming from another perspective because I feel it in my soul, but nobody never taught it to me. It just felt like the right thing to do, to want your mother to be better. And we look at society today, and kids don't even respect their parents. They just, it's so sad. I mean, what would you say to, if you could say one thing that can bring about some positivity or even some accountability to someone based upon that, Isaac, what can you say about the respect to their parents?
You know, I mean, I hear from everybody that today's youngest generation, that's everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
They don't respect the kid, the parents. They are too much like into the phone. I mean, listen, our kids know better than us.
Yes.
I mean, whenever I have a computer problem, I go to your son. You go to your son. He's only 14 years old, and he's a genius, you know.
Yes.
And I'm a total like an idiot.
Right, right.
I think that it's a cultural thing. That if you look at old cultures, every culture, it's always respect the elders, no matter where it is in the world.
Right.
So, and there is a reason for it, because you can, from the Far East to, I mean, everywhere in the world where you go, there is always a respect for the elders, because you can learn a lot from them. Mm-hmm. As a child, you think you know better, because, I used to look at my parents, you said, listen, they cannot even speak Hebrew. Yeah. And when they speak Hebrew, they have a terrible accent.
Right,
immigrants. I'm sure my kids hear me now. I have a terrible accent in English, you know, and not a good English.
Yeah.
But it's the experience that they have in life.
Yeah.
So is important. Also, look, it's a cultural thing, because think about it. I'm looking at history, let's say 2,000 years of persecution. I said, okay, my parents were sent to the concentration camps. I mean, 6 million Jews died there. That's a third of the Jewish people who were killed by the Nazis, by the Germans and their collaborators in Europe. That's third of the people.
Right.
Now, prior to that, they were speaking Spanish. Why? Because in 1492, they were kicked out by the Spanish king, Ferdinand and Isabella, the one that sent Columbus to the States, but they kicked out the Jews out of Spain. But prior to that, Jews were kicked out of France at 1390. And prior to that, they were kicked out of England at 1290. So you understand that history is about sometimes getting a blow. And the culture teaches you, okay, this is what it is. You got to adapt. You got to do the best you can with what you got. And listen, there's nothing like respecting the parents and helping the parents.
Yeah. But and the good thing, and I'm glad you bring up about Messiah. One of the things that I do as a teacher, and even as a parent, I try to listen and try to find a relationship. We grow together. You know, when that line is crossed of disrespect, I try to do it in a manner that doesn't increase the pressure, like negativity. It's probably like a breakdown in communication. How do you think that can play a better role in us just trying to be, because they have something to say too, like you said. I mean, come on. I couldn't be on Zoom if it wasn't for Messiah. Messiah, he's the genius behind the whole thing. So it's like, you gotta see it from their eyes as well, just as much as we want them to see it from our eyes and our experience. I mean, what do you say about that?
You're right, but it's hard, because I have 4 kids, right? I mean, they're all adults, and many times I see things different than them.
Right.
They grew up in California. I grew up in Israel. I mean, my point of view is different. I'm an immigrant. They grew up in here. So but I try. I'm not saying I'm succeeding,
Right, yeah,
but
yeah,
I try many times when we argue or discuss to
yeah,
get into their shoes and
yes,
to see things through their point of view,
yes,
to understand it. You know, it goes back to Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu said, if you know yourself, you'll win 50% of the battle.
right,
You know your enemy. I'm not saying that the kids are the enemy, but you know whom you're dealing with, you'll win also 50%. You'll know your enemy and yourself, you'll win 100%. So I know it's hard. It's hard for me. Listen, but sometimes you have to really, I mean, try to understand their point of view. Maybe you will not agree with it, but at least because you see it through their point of view, you maybe will have a way to argue with them in a way that they will start to see things from your point of view, and maybe the outcome will be different. You know, maybe they will do something or decide on something that I would like them to do. So I think that the kids, the bottom line, the kids, they want to please the parents, even though they will argue with you. At the end, there is this respect that is instinctive respect, and will try not to go against the father or the mother, you know?
okay. And do you think that martial arts, because you have I mean, you're a martial artist. I mean, do you think that your training in the martial arts has helped you when we talk about being able to, like as Bruce Lee saying, I was talking to Mr. Perry Wong yesterday from the TV show Warrior, and we were talking about the new book called "Be Like Water," my friend, by Shannon Lee. Do you think martial arts has allowed you to be like water in the flow and adapt?
Yes, but even more than this, and I'll tell you why. And it's good that you're bringing this point, because I've been training for many years. I started 50 years ago. I cannot believe it. And by the way, so you know, my parents were dead set against me training in karate. For them, and again, we're Holocaust survivor. It's like boxing. You'll get hit, you'll get injured. We're totally against it. And my weapon to convince them was, I'm a good student. Give it to me. I'm a good student. They couldn't say anything about it. My father had one condition. Okay, keep on playing guitar. And I still play the guitar.
Right.
So, but because it was hard for me to get to get the opportunity to learn karate, I was about 12, 13 years old. I did a pact with myself. And the pact was, no matter what, I will never, ever, ever, ever leave it. I will always stick with it. Because you know and I know, it's hard to train sometimes. It's too cold, it's too hot. You want to see a movie, you want to go to see a matinee, you're too lazy. There's always excuses, and I always put the excuses outside. I took my bag, I grit my teeth, and I went and I trained. And usually, after the warm up, you always feel better, you know. And after training, you feel fantastic. But I tell you what I learned from it. That all over the world, there are people like you and me that are passionate about it. Now, why they're passionate about it? Because if you look at martial arts, it's an education tool that is amazing. Why? It teaches you to set realistic goals, because let's say you come and you train, and then you see one of the black belts and you look at them and you say, I will never be able to kick like this. But they tell you, no, no, no. You have to achieve this rank. So to achieve this rank, these are your goals. And you look at the goal and say, I think if I will stick and will train enough in a few months, with a little bit of hard work, I can achieve it. So you achieve this goal. Then you have another rank. And it's the same idea. It's about achieving realistic goals and systematic way to achieve them. So later you take the same approach in everything that you do. In education, you have to study something. So you break it down how to study, and you have the discipline to say, no, I will not go and make myself a milkshake or whatever. I will sit and I will study until I get it. And then when you apply it in your work, you say, no matter what, this is what I'm going to achieve. This is step A, step B, step C. So this is one thing. Then there is the other factor, and I call it the coffee factor. What is the coffee factor? Let's say I ask somebody for coffee. So they bring me black coffee in a mug. And I say, okay, can I get sugar? So they bring me sugar. Can I also get cream? So they give me the cream. Can I also please get a stir? They give me a stir. If you train in martial arts, when somebody will ask you for coffee, you'll bring him the coffee with the sugar, with the cream, and with the stir. You'll see the whole picture.
Yes. Okay.
Because you try to achieve some kind of a perfection.
Yes. Okay.
And I think, I mean, for us, it's martial arts. I'm sure that somebody that is doing ballet or fencing or any art that is history and validity, probably they're doing the same thing. We see it through martial arts. They see it from other arts.
What's so beautiful, because I know that's what everybody want to know. I mean, you done been a part of so much historical evolution of martial arts, and I think some people don't realize that filmmaking, dance, music, it is another level of martial arts expression.
It is.
I
Indeed.
think we learned. I think Peter Urban said it. I think Ron Van Cleef said. Peter Urban said, "If you have something to say, you have something to write. You have a story to tell, and it's our duty as martial artists to transcend from the dojo or from the tournament arena into storytelling beyond just those little arenas." And how has that influenced your decision to becoming a film director, a writer? And I mean, your whole resume of made of filmmaking. I mean, what you do is incredible. I never seen nobody like, what is it? Film the foot, hitting the ball and show the ball crack it open, and let me see them jump to the ground, and you see the feet hit the ground and the sand come up. Pow! I mean, that's art. I mean, how first of all, what made you choose that path, filmmaking?
First of all, I will, but you mentioned Peter Urban, and I'll tell you something that Don Warner, my friend, that was one of the first Canadian martial arts karate pioneers, and he was a friend of Peter Urban and also a student, and he told me what was Peter Urban's definition of enlightenment. And he used to say enlightenment, it's you and I, everybody is looking for enlightenment, but or to somebody that they save them from themselves, right, and give them enlightenment. And enlightenment is realizing that someone is you.
Right. You saving you from yourself, is that what we say?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. That's taking responsibility.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is how it went with karate for me. Remember, I grew up in a country of 2.5 million people, homogeneous. I mean, it's like there were no people from the Far East, no people from Africa. I mean, all I saw, I'm looking at the apartment building that I was, were people that were all Jews, but they came from Iraq, from Yemen, from Egypt, from Romania, from Hungary, from Poland. A lot of them Holocaust survivors, some of them not. But so suddenly I saw, when I was about 8 years old, a James Bond movie called You Only Live Twice, and it happens in Japan. And there was martial arts in the movie. There was, and I saw it as a kid. I was fascinated.
Right.
I remember I was fascinated from the way that it was like quiet, and then there was like an explosion. Right. It fascinated me. I went to my brother. My brother was 8 years older than me. And I said, is there really something like this? And he told me, yes. And he told me about karate. He told me about judo. A year later, the Tokyo Circus came to Israel, and I went to see it only because they had karate demonstrations there. I went 3 times only for the karate demonstrations. And I said, I want to learn it. I will do anything to learn it. A year later, they opened a dojo that was actually in a bowling alley close to my house. And this is where my parents, I told you the story, they let me train. At that time, this is like now we're talking late 60s, early 70s, a few movies started to come that had martial arts. So it was Billy Jack. Later, I was fortunate to meet Bong Sohan. The Mechanic with Charles Bronson that had a karate scene with Attack Kubota. Melinda with Jim Kelly.
Yes, yeah.
And you see these movies, but it's not martial arts movies, but there is martial arts in them.
Right.
And I always loved cinema, especially Westerns. Nothing, I didn't get it yet. Then I saw Fist of Fury, the Chinese movie started to come. The first movie that came was Five Fingers of Death. I saw it, I didn't like it. It was too violent for me. And I was training by then. The level of martial arts there for me was very low. And it was too fun, too fantastic. I mean, the jumps and
Yeah.
then the second movie that came was Fists of Fury, Bruce Lee, what was called in the States a Chinese Connection.
Yeah.
And I remember my teacher, my sensei recommended it. And I went to see it. And I never had an experience like this. When I saw the movie, I was walking back home, and I told it years later to Shannon when we worked on WMEC Masters.
Yes.
It was like I was walking on clouds.
Yeah.
It was unrealistic. And I said, wow, I never saw something like this. I used to come with a folder and see the movie again and again and try the techniques so I can try them in the dojo. But it hit me that you can do a movie around martial arts, that you can, it's like a genre, a subgenre. We all love action, but that's not the brawl of somebody hitting, that's amazing techniques. The technique, it's like a dance.
Yeah.
So I started in high school. I did a few like films in Super 8 millimeter, like a 3 minute, and from there also, because there was no editing and it was expensive, I used to edit before I shoot. This is how I got the idea of the feet and he says, okay, feet, ready? 3, 2, 1, go, bang. Okay, do this kick and that kick. Rehearse it once, twice. Okay, now let's shoot. Bang, bang, cut.
Right.
So we used to put it together even before we had editing system. So you shoot exactly what you imagine that you want to shoot. So it trained my mind to shoot what I want to see. So years later, after my military service, when I I had to go to university. Again, you have parents that are Holocaust survivor. Education is a must. Plus, you have to understand that education in Israel university cost literally basically nothing. It's subsidized kind of. So I went to film school. They wanted me to be a dentist or an accountant. I went to a film school. Why a dentist? Because medicine was socialized. So you can be a doctor, but you won't make anything. Right. So basically, I went to film school. And again, it was always around action because I said, if I'm going to a film school, I have a goal. I want to do action movies. But the way that I directed in my mind was, I'm going to shoot what I need for editing. So I edited in my mind before I already shot. So my mind was trained in that way. Only when I came to the States, because also my first student movie of half an hour, I shot in that way because there was no money. You get a limited material and you shoot. First you edit in your mind, then you shoot. So when I came to America, people told me, no, here people do a master and then they do a coverage. And I'm looking at this, I saw it and I say, okay, I understand if it's a dramatic scene, okay, people are in the moment, right. But you're doing a fight scene, After the third hit, people are not in their mark. The hit looks like a miss. It is a miss.
Right.
Also, it's not composed right because it's not what you shoot, it's how you shoot. And directing, it's not what you tell, it's really how you tell it. How is the camera composed and the camera movement to how is it affecting the mind and the emotion of the viewer?
Right. Okay.
So basically, it's out of no, I mean, call it being poor with means, it taught me to first to edit and to know what I want and then to shoot it. There was a plus in the minus.
You know, it's funny as you're talking. I think I always say food stamp budget. That's what I always say when I do stuff. I'm on a food stamp budget because that's what we had to use when we in the inner city. Food stamps go a long way. You know, that's what we got. And when you talk about that experience that has impacted your whole career, because that's what you're saying. Just out of necessity to make it at the beginning, you still do the same thing even to this day when you're shooting films. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But now, so here is something really interesting. So I came to the States and I did, in the beginning, I did some fight choreography and second unit for some really low budget movies. Then I happened to, I was lucky to get into Power Rangers. Mm-hmm. And Power Rangers, the idea was, you're shooting every day. Why don't you go and experiment and if it doesn't work, you reshoot it tomorrow. So of course nobody wants to reshoot, but somebody gave me like what is called carte blanche. Go and experiment. So I used it as a lab to try new things, like split screen, not split screen. Do stuff with cuts, do stuff with continuous move. But then let's go to WMAC Masters. When I met Norman, our producer, Norman's idea was to make it like it's real. We know it's not, but
right.
The feeling. And I told him, it's very hard to do it in martial arts. It's not like WWE because the hits should read. And I said, wow, that's really challenging. How am I going to make it look real?
Right.
So, and I remember I was thinking about it. Then, by chance, my brother and his family came to visit us from Israel, and all the families went to Las Vegas. I'm bored in Vegas. I don't gamble and whatever. So I'm sitting and I'm seeing that is 1994, video games. There were like big screens with video games. And I saw a game called Virtual Fighter. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, wow, they do everything in one shot. And I really looked into it and said, here is the solution. So the solution is to make long shots. So I don't know if you remember, sometimes we used to compose this long continuous shot. We rehearse, and we did take after take after take after take. Everybody was exhausted, right. But when we got the right take, everybody was happy and satisfied about it because it looked rich, it looked real, you know?
Yes, yes.
So that was a challenge, you know, but so it was about you compose it to camera and you try to keep a shot that will last. Later, with all of this experience, when you do a movie, I use those shows as my lab. This is where I did the experiments. You go and you do a movie, so you're limited on time, it's more expensive and whatever. But I remember first movie that I went and shot about outside America was in 1998, was in South Africa. So I'm going, I had a great crew. And I tell them, put the zoom lens. Everybody's looking at each other. A zoom lens was a taboo. It's like, you never use a zoom lens. I said, just go and put it, don't worry.
Right.
So they look at the producer worked with me before. we did a movie before here with Billy Zabka and Antonio Sabato Jr. and Amy Smart and Shannon Lee, called High Voltage. And he told them, just listen to what he said, pull the zoom lens. So, and then we did like this kind of a long dolly covering action. And it was very rare for them, strange for them, because they used to cover action kind of, well, let's put 3 cameras. This will capture this will capture that, and this will, and I said, no, one shot, you know, and we see all the movement. Yeah. So, but I had the confidence to go, even though it's a crew, it's a foreign country, I never worked with them. I had the experience that gave me the confidence to ask for what I wanted without any hesitation.
Right, right. You know, when you say that, and I think, and I'm gonna ask about the other movies and the great Scott Adkins and Michael Jai White, but I mean, many people talk about WMAC Masters, and I just remember when it was almost like a competition if somebody had to do more than like 3 takes. I mean, Hakeem and all of us like, man, you got to do push-ups. You did more takes. It was like, it was so much fun. I mean, because it was the best martial artists at that time in the world of sports karate, but there were no egos. Everybody was willing to do the work. I mean, what was that experience like for you, Mr. Isaac?
Amazing. First of all, I think that the problem of the show, we were ahead of our time. Right. The show came about 5 years or 7 years too early.
Right.
Sadly, you know, because we had great producer. Norman and Kagan were great, they were visionaries. And I remember things, you know, something very simple. I'll give you an example. Once we had Hakeem coming out and we were trailing with him, but I put a wide lens. Wide lens is distorting. So it makes things look to the extreme. So Hakeem is walking and following his leg, and he was walking normal, but because it's a wide lens, the feet look like he's walking like a goose walk. And I tell him, Hakeem, you walk like this, like a pigeon goat. And he's dying out of laugh and he's walking like this. And then you see the result and it looks good. Yeah. You have to adapt to the lens, you know?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No, think about it. It's like somebody that is on pedestal today and is the guy that have the star to the next day is just a ninja.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right. And that's what people don't, it's like we would fight to be a ninja for somebody else. It was like, no, I'll be a ninja. I mean, and it was like, you didn't really have to need that many other stunt people because people don't realize that the ninjas were the actual stars of the show.
Exactly.
No egos. And just the experience of you guys giving us a chance to put together the fight scenes, trusting that we were so, what was that like? I mean, just to give that experience to everybody and trust that we were going to do a good job with our own creativity.
So first of all, I think that the beauty of it, they put all of us in the same hotel. So no matter what, we were 24 hours together, you know? So at this point, it's like it becomes a family. And you know the people. So, and I always used to say, I'm not going, it's like I used to ask, everybody, what is your favorite techniques? And in which leg you prefer to do it? So, because what you want to do is to choreograph something, and it's always we do it together. It's a teamwork, you know. So you will look your best, your opponent will look the best, and of course the camera, they will feature you the best, you know. So it's a teamwork that everybody is collaborating to make it look the best possible. And we know it's just a show, so who cares who win or who lost? It's about the process itself, you know. Today, you lost today, tomorrow you win. Like I remember there was a line they say about tsunami. It went from hero to zero, from zero to hero.
So if you could think of two, as you're talking, I'm thinking of two favorite sayings. Who's that stupid ninja? Who's that stupid ninja? Right?
So that was her purse. No, the perfect shot. After I don't know, man, and then the ninja walks in the middle. That's one shot. Then there was something, I think it was with Yuji, that the camera was doing some kind of a roll or a spin. There was a toupee, and he jumped, and there was like a beat, and then the toupee went back into frame, and like landed exactly where his feet were. Like you couldn't plan it better than that. That was amazing, you know.
And then your favorite saying, I mean, I just said, Willie, you're killing me. You're
That's
killing me, guys. You're killing me. You're killing me. You're killing me. I mean, and it was so much fun. I mean that moment, that experience, I mean, just was incredible. And like you say, nobody, it's like nobody took a break. I remember times when we would film like in the morning, and I mean, I didn't have a shirt on, so when we have to like go in our costume, and it's like cold as I don't know what out there, but because we're moving, nobody taking breaks, nobody's complaining because the rhythm and the energy. How important when you're doing a film, how important is the rhythm of the character, the camera people, the whole set? How important is that rhythm and energy is to turn out a great project?
Exactly like in the show, because the rhythm creates a positive energy, and the crew and the actors and everybody goes into it. The minute that you start to wait on something, the energy and the level of concentration starts to fall, and it's like it starts to be dragging. You don't want it, you know.
Yeah.
That's why pre-production is very important, to go and to pre-plan. This is what we want. I used to come with a short list. I do come with the same short list when I do a movie. Remember John O'Rourke? He was our AD.
Yes, I was thinking about him.
Yeah, he was taking those lists. I remember at the end of the show, he took a list from me that was written in Hebrew, a list from Yuji that was written in Japanese, and said, I'm going to keep this because people will ask me, how am I working with the director? I will show them those lists. And I had to work with this kind of people, you know.
Well,
and then I did, sorry, please.
Go ahead.
Then I did with him one or two movies. But I remember another event. I don't know if one day everybody went to Daytona Beach in the weekend. And the next day everybody was tired from the beach. And the energy was so low, and I was so upset, and we were shooting at the big dome, you know, with the cage dome. And I was like, wow, so furious, you know. I said, if I had machine gun, I would shoot all of you. And then everybody laughed and they were okay. But
what I was thinking about when we would do rehearsals. Remember, I used to have the video camera. So sometimes we would film the scene, so we would go back and we could study it. And I don't know, it's just things like that. I think people take for granted today. I mean, I don't know. When you work with people, you say everybody want to take a break, and because most people are not real martial artists, they cannot go to that level of like consistent motion. You know, they don't build. It's almost like
to push themselves.
Right. They don't want to push themselves. They want to break. It's like a fighter. When you're in the heat of the fight, man, it's like, man, don't stop me. Let me go. And I think that's what you're saying. That was the key to that. And I think sometimes you see in movies, that's why you see it choppy, because, you know, and you can see the shift in the rhythm. They'll start off, and just when they're about ready to go, they'll take a break. And there's no way to get that rhythm back again. And so you can see, like
in a scene, you're talking in a scene.
In a scene.
Yes.
So how has that went on to help you when you went to work with like people like Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, and all those other people, those great films that you have done?
So remember, Michael is a real martial artist. He's
right.
Total. I mean, he's the real deal. And Scott is a real martial artist, but he came from background. He used to be a stunt guy. He worked with Jackie Chan. So it was with them, it's easy. It's like, actually, when I did Undisputed 2 with Michael, we had to bring him down because he plays as a boxer. We could not use kicks. Yeah. So we had really to bring his level down and to limit his techniques. but it was good for the character because he was playing a boxer that at a certain point transitioned to some kind of limited MMA. But it was about serving the character. I remember we talked about it, and it was about serving the character and the story. Uh, so look, when you work with people like Scott or Michael, it's easy because they will go the extra way. I mean, they don't know what is pain. They will continue to work.
Right.
So sometimes and sometimes you work with actors that they have stunt experience, but they don't have martial arts background. But again, people that are serious about their craft, they will take a lot of punishment. They will not tell you that they're tired, and they will continue. When just give you an example. I shot a movie with Antonio Banderas called Acts of Vengeance.
Okay.
And Antonio, and I was worried because I never worked with him, and there were some fight scenes. I met him, and he was super nice, and I really liked him. But he arrived really about 3 days before shooting. And the stunt people told me, Isaac, they worked with him before. He learns choreography like this. I wasn't sure. And he tells me, Isaac, I learned choreography very fast. I wasn't sure. The nicest guy in the world. And we're doing the first fight scene, and I see his choreography, and it's like this. And I remember after the first fight scene, and in between takes, he didn't go to his trailer or whatever. He was with the crew. He was a part of the crew. You know, Star Not Star is one of us. So he comes to me and says, "You see, you were worried. I told you. I see your choreography, and I really learned it. But think about him. He can dance. He can do fencing. He has a lot of experience. So, and he's got an amazing discipline. He wanted to do all of the stunts in that movie, and he did 99% of them. Now, why am I telling you all of that story? The end fight is fighting, and there were two cars that were throwing the headlights with more headlights into the face of the two people fighting. So he fought against a stunt guy, and the stunt guy missed and basically clipped him with a punch, and we had to send him to get stitches. He didn't want to get stitches. He wanted to continue. He said, "No, please go and do the stitches." Now, Antonio said, "This is my fault. I should have, it's not the fight of the stunt guy. He took all the blame." So was it right or not? No, but it doesn't matter. He's so much into the discipline, into his craft, that he didn't care. He didn't care. He came back with stitches and continue, and is disciplined from, not from martial arts, but from learning the discipline of acting and theater acting from very, very young age, and excelling it and seeing it as a discipline. Like we treat martial arts, this is the way that he treats his art. Discipline and going the full way and doing anything possible to do it. No, wanting to do more and more and more, wanting to do all the stunts, basically wanted to be there for the whole process from the beginning to end, because he loves the process. And think about it, we're doing a fight scene. We love to do fight scenes because we're coming from martial arts background. Even though I always say it's the story and character, but for us, it's also to come up with a good fight scene. And we love that process.
And I think for me, a lot, I say thank you again for, I know I never shared what I was going through and what I was coming from when I first started working with you. That was because I didn't have the confidence in who I was becoming as a person. But that experience have allowed me to branch out and do all the things I do today. And I think even with the call to action, that's what I wanted. It's called I call myself your student. You taught me how to fight on the screen. And what I want to do, as we go forward in the world, is to give kids and people that we work with a chance to experience that. To know that, man, if you want this, you got to be disciplined. You know, there's no shortcuts. You can't be separate from, you know, you can't be a star if you're not a part of the team. You know, there's no individuality in team. We all are one big team, and we make the whole thing work together as a team, even the coach. And I think that's some of the things that we lack in our society. We don't have everybody working together for the end goal.
Exactly.
And that's what you're talking about. And that's what martial arts is about. I mean, everything from the beginning, even with your dad, going all the way back to your parents. At the end of the day, is about contributing to the overall family dynamics, the team. And in closing, what would you say? I mean, if you could, how do you see the world of action films? I mean, I still remember the days of blockbusters. Remember blockbusters?
Yes, of course.
The B-level films. I mean, you can go to blockbusters on Tuesday, there'd probably be like 10 movies.
Golden days.
They were the days.
Yes.
How do you see films turning out as you go forward? Hey, Mr. Fred. Give me 1 second, Isaac. Fred. He's a little early.
Wow. That's great. Fred Williamson. I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan.
Fred.
Bolt. How are you, sir? I don't know if he sees me.
I don't think he has his mic on or his camera on yet. Hey, Fred.
Yeah, what's up, dog?
You the man. Hey,
I understand how you feel. I understand how you feel, home.
I'm a big fan of yours.
I need all the help I can get, my man.
That man Bolt, Three the Hard Ways.
Yeah.
It's like I grew up on those movies. That was it. Tel Aviv in the 70s. I'm a teenager and I'm going to see those movies.
Trust me, I know what you're saying, man. Because my friend was Menahem Golan.
Yes.
With my buddies, so they kind of like those movies
Diamond,
too.
right? You did Diamond in Israel.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. That was 1975, yes.
Let me introduce y'all.